I'm really bad at savings, Matt. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, so most people feel a little bit paralyzed about that.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you start, it's better. People can save, and they can save a lot of money over a long period of time. They don't have to make $1 million. It's just about that discipline.
Okay, I love that.
So don't let the paralysis, I guess, stop you.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Guiding You Forward podcast presented by Mountain America Credit Union, where we talk about all things financial related. And today, thankfully, is no exception. We've got Matt Meese with us. Is it Meese?
I say Meese, but there's a funny guy with the same name down in Provo.
Okay, it's Matt Meese, you guys, with Mountain America Investment Services. He's our sales manager. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
You bet. I'm glad to be with you.
Yes, we're excited for you to be here too. We're going to talk a little bit about retirement, right?
I hope so. That's the best thing we can talk about.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to start off here. Tell me a little bit about retiring and just maybe busting some myths up front.
Yeah, very good.
So I'm really bad at savings, Matt. Let's just be honest.
That's
right?
Everybody's confession.
Okay, everyone has the same confession at least.
Right.
That's good. I feel good about that. When it comes to busting some of these myths of, hey, I know I'm just bad at savings.
Yeah.
I've waited too long. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so most people feel a little bit paralyzed about that.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you start, it's better. So just start with small things. I think one of the most inspiring things I've seen is that people can save. And they can save a lot of money over a long period of time. They don't have to make $1 million. It's just about that discipline. So occasionally we feel like I can't save because I'm poor.
Yeah.
All of us feel poor, regardless of what we've made in income. And so that's one of those where I say, you just start saving now. Put aside an automatic amount. Put aside, if you have to put it in a totally different account or a different place, just be disciplined about it. And you're going to squirrel away a lot of money over time.
Okay. I love that.
So don't let the paralysis, I guess, stop you.
Okay. Love that. So in addition to some other myths that we need to bust, and we'll get into some more of these later, but because I'm poor, am I ever going to be able to save enough money to actually retire?
Yeah.
The
answer is yes.
Yay.
No, this is what I think about with retirement. When you project these numbers, they get really big.
Yeah.
And you suddenly think, wait, I need, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I need millions of dollars for retirement. And it seems very daunting. But one of the strongest things that we have is time in preparation for retirement. Now, again, some people would be paralyzed saying, oh, I've waited too long. I'm now 40 or 50. That still is a reason to say, let's get started now.
Okay.
But if you put away some money over time, it really works. And again, I've seen teachers that earn modest incomes successfully retire. I've seen folks with really, really handsome incomes successfully retire. And it all is dependent on what you want to do in retirement. So we'll get into what that actually means in terms of like your own plan.
Okay.
But that you can do it.
Okay.
I hope what you do here for me is a lot of optimism and also just be really disciplined and say, let's just start what I can do today.
Okay. I love that. So let's say I'm super young, which I'm not, unfortunately, and I've got time on my side. Is there a magic age of, hey, you got to start by now. If you've got the time, make sure you start saving for retirement by this age and you'll be golden. Does that exist?
Well, so there's ways to do that. And I sometimes think of them as magic tricks. And you can easily demonstrate that if you save your Starbucks money when you're in your 20s, it's just going to compound and be huge by the time you're 60. Yeah. The trouble is nobody really does that. And I think of those a little bit as exaggerations of what is a very powerful thing of compounding interest. I don't know that there's a magic age. I do think that there's a time where you say, okay, it's time to put on my shoes and actually do the work of saving money.
Yeah.
I would hope in our late 20s, we begin to get serious about our finances. Maybe in your 30s, you begin to say, okay, I was serious, but maybe I actually got to put some concrete detail to it. 40s and 50s. And I think about that, and again, so many of us as Americans have waited and procrastinated what we know will be good for us financially, that we can also burden ourselves with a lot of guilt. I say, don't let that stop you.
Okay.
Let's just start and let's just do that. Even if, let's imagine you're 60 and you say, I haven't even started saving for retirement. Well, let's start today. It's going to be better if you start today and give yourself a few years than if you put it off until that day that you have to retire.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What a very, very good outlook. So let's take that. Let's say, hey, I am nearing retirement age.
Yeah.
What are some of the things I should be doing right now?
Yeah, very good. So let me go with this crazy metaphor that I've used before with retirement.
Okay.
I think of it a lot like a road trip across the entire country.
Okay.
You know, and if we're in Utah and we're going to go to New York, it kind of just means let's just head east. You don't have to get the exact right exit planned in New York. You don't have to get the exact last pit stops before you enter the city. You just have to start heading east.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But as you get closer to retirement, and that might be in your late 50s and 60s, and again, your situation is going to be unique to you. But as you get closer to retirement, you really want to put some concrete plans in place.
Okay.
I think you would want to do a few things. Retirement's a big transition. And so we will focus a lot of our comments on the financial aspect of that. But if I can just step away from finances for 1 second and say, you might want to plan what you want to do in retirement.
Yeah.
How do you want to spend your time? Who do you want to spend your time with? What is going to keep your focus and give you satisfaction? We see some of our members that retire and they're not happy. And that's a thing, right? They might have planned all their money and all their kids are taken care of and all that. And if they don't have purpose or a plan, retirement is not going to be satisfying. So it's not financial, but I say, give yourself enough of a plan to say, this is actually what I want to do for my satisfaction.
Okay.
So that's part of it.
I love that.
I can't tell you how to do that. Some people like a lot of charity work. Other people want to travel. I hope there's golf for all of us in retirement somewhere, right? But all of that is one of those where I say, okay, give yourself a plan. Now let's plug back into finances.
Okay.
It's a big transition point. So one thing I would say is make sure you build up your emergency fund or your just backup savings account.
Okay.
People have to normalize in retirement. And so you want to say, okay, I need to have a lot of flexibility as I step away from a regular paycheck or income. How am I going to make groceries work and insurance, and I've got to get a new knee and all these other things.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, our friends want to go on this cruise and we're all going to, it's a big transition point. So you want your emergency fund to be built up.
Okay.
I think another thing you can do is make sure you take a really good look at your retirement accounts where you've saved your money. If you can, increase your contributions. That's just going to help the whole account grow a little bit more. And so that's where I say maybe even 5 or 10 years before you kind of hypothetically are planning to retire, you would sit down either with an advisor, with your significant other and say, okay, nuts and bolts, what does it look like? Again, on that metaphor of that road trip, you're saying you're getting through Ohio and Pennsylvania. You're almost to New York.
Okay.
You should probably plan, are we going upstate New York or are we going to the city? And I hope this metaphor translates.
Yes, it absolutely does. I love it.
That's it. So then you say, okay. And then as you get even closer, you may say, where's the traffic?
Yeah.
Or are we coming in at rush hour? How's the best way to approach our destination?
Okay.
All of that I say with retirement in specific, then you want to say, are our estate plans in order? Have we made some of those decisions that are better when I'm working, when I'm healthy? Do our kids know what those plans are?
Yeah.
Because what I have also seen with members is if you put those decisions off, there's a point at which you don't have as many choices, as many options.
I love
so
that. Okay.
Just go ahead and do it early.
So make all the choices now while you
Make
have
all
them.
the choices now.
Okay.
And build up some emergency fund. It's easier that way.
Is there a magic year's worth of expenses in your emergency fund? I've heard that before. 6 months, 3 months. What should we work towards?
Yeah, very good. So those are kind of rule of thumb, or what's the phraseology? Is that the right?
Yeah, rule of thumb.
Rule of thumb?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
I blanked on that. That's a rule of thumb, right? Where you say, yep, 3 months of your expenses might be the minimum.
Okay.
I think 6 is much more common and reasonable. If you know yourself and say, we spend a little bit spontaneously, or my income is a little bit uncertain, it's probably better to have 12 months of your living expenses. Heaven forbid anything happens, then you say, it's okay. We have some savings for that purpose.
Okay. Love it. What do we need to think about as we're nearing retirement age? You had mentioned insurance. I might need a new knee.
Yep.
I know a lot of our expenses, unfortunately, as we age, may go to the
medical
side, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you want to answer a lot of the uncertainties. There are so many uncertainties, and I'm overusing this metaphor, but this road trip.
Yeah.
There's so many things that can happen in that long road trip, right? You can get a flat tire, you can run out of gas, the kids are getting tired, whatever it may be. And with our retirement roadmap, there's so many uncertainties that it helps to answer some of them and say, okay, what does Medicare actually look like?
Yeah.
If I ever need a new knee or have some heart trouble, what's that actually going to be? Mm-hmm. And you can get the answers. We have advisors here at the credit union that can consult with you. There are others in the marketplace, but that's one of those that I say, get some of those nailed down so that whenever the curveball happens, you're ready. So when you think about your retirement accounts and your retirement investments, that's usually one of the largest assets that we have.
Yeah.
So don't neglect it.
Okay.
So that's where I say you want to sit down at least annually and look at your portfolios and see, am I taking the right amount of risk for my situation? It's going to be unique for each one of us. But what happens over time, especially through a COVID period of time, and then this year has started with an exciting market, is that the markets, the performance of the investments dramatically change.
Yeah.
And that means your portfolio has shifted as well. So with that annual review, you want to rebalance and say, oh, I was trying to be moderate in my investments. Through market performance, I'm actually really aggressive all of a sudden. And so let me get back to moderate.
Okay. Yeah.
If that's what's right for your risk level.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. So that yearly revision. Okay. Really important. One thing that I think a lot of people don't know about is 401ks, right? We're part of this great reset. Everyone's changing jobs. Chances are you've left an old 401k with another employer. Yeah. What is the best way to handle those? Yep.
So 401ks, when you leave an employer, you have 4 options.
Okay.
And so I'll just talk briefly through each of them. One is you can leave it at that old employer plan. Most plans allow you to just leave your investments there.
Yeah.
They're continuing to perform with the market up and down. The one big difference is you're not contributing to it any longer.
Yeah.
So that's it. You can leave it there. The one caveat to that is sometimes smaller balances, maybe $10,000 or $5,000 or under. The plan will just say, no, thanks, Kristalina. We're just going to send you this check and tell you good luck at the next place.
Okay.
So option 1 is leave it at the employer, at their old employer's 401k. Option 2 is bring it to your new employer's 401k. That's a very common one.
All right.
And even though there's a little bit of logistical processing, it's fairly straightforward to say, hey, I want my 401k to go into this new 401k. There's some forms and some transition, but it's very, very simple. A lot of people like to consolidate their accounts so they can just see them in one place. The third option is what is the third option? Oh, the third option is to roll it over to an IRA.
Okay.
The IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. So again, you can individually choose whatever investment you want. Okay. You're not limited to the 401k plan options. And so you say, great, I've got an IRA, and if I want to invest in this company or that company, or I feel very passionate about this thing, that's how you do it.
Okay.
You obviously go from a traditional 401k to a traditional IRA. or a Roth 401k to a Roth IRA.
Okay. What are the differences there?
You don't have to pay close enough attention. If you work with an advisor, they obviously will know the differences.
Okay,
but
good.
The main difference is how the money is taxed.
Yeah.
And so with a traditional IRA, you're saying, don't tax me now. Tax me later when I am ready to retire.
Okay.
With a Roth IRA, you say, oh yeah, I'll pay taxes today and then never pay them again.
Okay.
As long as I hold them to my retirement age.
Cool.
The fourth option with an old 401k is to take all the money out and spend it.
Well, that sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. I will say this. That's my least favorite option for a number of reasons. Number one, you make sure if you're considering that you are well aware of the tax consequences and the early withdrawal penalties. If you have pulled it out prior to your 59 and a half birthday, it's going to sting. You're going to give Uncle Sam a lot of that money. The other thing is if you're older than that, you usually don't need to pull the entire chunk out at one moment. Let's imagine that you have $100,000 in a 401k. You probably don't need $100,000 all at the same exact moment.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say you want to be strategic with how you do that. But those are the four options. So stay in the old one, go to a new 401k or your new company, roll it to an IRA, or take it all out.
Okay. So you said the fourth option of taking it all out and spending it is your least favorite. Do you have another favorite out of the three?
Yeah, I have tons of opinions. The reality is it depends a lot on your own specific situation. Yeah. There's reasons why you would want to roll your 401k into an IRA. There's other reasons why you would want to roll it into the new 401k plan.
Okay.
I think it's best to evaluate those specific to your own situation. I am personally partial to Roth accounts. I like paying taxes now so that I don't later. It's kind of the devil that I know versus the devil that I don't in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Idea. I love that. I love that. So next, Matt, I want to ask you about taxes in retirement. Yes. You kind of led into it a little bit with pay the devil now versus the one you don't know later.
It's probably wrong to call the government, the IRS, the devil.
I don't think the IRS is the devil, but taxes can be, right? We'll just say taxes.
Yes.
Taxes in themselves are. So what is happening with taxes in retirement? What do we need to plan for?
Yep. So that's, again, one of those uncertainties that you do want to strategize and answer some of those uncertainties for yourself. So a lot of people say, which is best in retirement, a Roth or a traditional?
Yeah.
It depends how you have approached retirement. So if you think about, again, everybody's individual circumstances, some people want to continue to work. They actually just want to change jobs.
Okay.
Right. So they say, hey, I don't want to do this any longer. I actually have this passion job. I just want to go do that. Okay. And that may affect their taxes because if they have earned income either at the same level, higher or lower than what they're doing now, that's going to be different. The other big uncertainty is what is Congress going to do with taxes in the year in which you retire? So if you
only we could know.
Yeah, if you can tell me that'd be great. But that's where I say, again, you want to just make sure you answer the questions you can answer. Social Security is going to be a part of your retirement. If you're pulling out from traditional accounts or Roth accounts or how you're earning your income, it is all going to affect that tax picture. I will say the other part of taxes, though, again, the theory behind a traditional IRA is I'm earning big bucks now, and when I retire, I'm going to be at a much lower level.
Yeah.
I've seen that work. I've also seen that lots of people retire and they're making about the same amount that they were while they were working. And so the tax picture doesn't dramatically change unless, again, you've planned for that.
Okay, interesting. That's very, very good to keep in mind for sure. Well, and when you mentioned social security, which I always have the hardest time saying those two phrases together. Not sure why, but one of the common questions I'm sure that you as an advisor get, or social security is going to run out by the time you and I retire.
That's right.
right? Like it's not going to be anything
nervous
left.
about it.
So what do we just plan for that too? Because that's another devil we don't know.
No. So I will say this, that in my opinion is a bit overblown.
Okay.
Everybody's nervous, and certainly the government is an entity that we all get nervous about.
Yeah.
But I will say Social Security is not going anywhere because the taxes that the government is collecting from you and I, our paychecks today, are going to pay for Social Security for those collecting it today. Okay. And so if the government cannot tax people, then Social Security may go away.
Okay.
Or if you say it the opposite way, you say, as long as the government can tax people, then we're going to have Social Security.
Okay.
So some people think of it as this big pool of money that's all dried up and the government spent it all. Some of that is true depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
But the big part of Social Security is that those who are working today are paying the benefit of those who are drawing it today. All
right. Okay. Love that. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
So another myth that we have that I want to touch on is, I've waited until X to start saving.
Oh yeah.
There's no way I'm ever going to catch up.
Yeah.
Is that true? Obviously you want time on your side, but what are your thoughts for people that come in with that concern, or maybe people out there that have that concern?
Right. I think a lot of people try to put off saving until they've paid off whatever they think they should pay off before they start saving.
Yeah.
I will say that's a mistake.
Okay.
Again, if you kind of take a generalized American household and they have a mortgage, it's a 15 or a 30-year mortgage, it would be way too long to put off your savings until you have paid that in its entirety.
Okay.
So what I say, again, there's another question that a lot of people will ask and say, how much should I save?
Yeah.
Either in a retirement account or otherwise. The answer is you should save everything you possibly can while you still can pay your bills today, right? Go ahead. So again, your question was about those who have put it off. I think don't let that fear paralyze you. Just go ahead and start. It'll be so much better to just start at whatever age you're at currently, and just start squirreling away money. You'll find that you get better at it after you've started, and then it also builds its own internal momentum. If there's a point at which your money begins to gain some significant interest, you say, this is awesome. Yeah. It's great. Now, I'm a finance nerd, so I think that that's exciting and I want to get amped up about it. But I say for most households, they say, oh, okay, it's good. We have some savings. And as that continues to build, you get better at it.
Okay. I love that. In addition to squirreling away our money, Matt, one of the things you mentioned is obviously we're not going to wait until our mortgage is paid off, right, to start saving for retirement. But what about other types of debt? I mean, you think of some of the other opportunities, we'll call them, that we have to get into debt. Maybe it's the credit card debt that could get into, whatever. I mean, there's so many options out there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Do we need to wait to save until we get those credit cards paid down?
Yeah.
What? I don't know. Is there a magic formula there?
Yeah. The answer, no. There's no magic. I wish there were. I will say there's plenty of voices that will give you an opinion.
Yeah.
And there are some very popular ones that would say, oh, just snowball all these debt payments until you've paid everything off, and then you can just begin to save like crazy because you got all this money. Yeah. That's awesome. And I love those that do it that way. For me, I've found that it helps to just say, no, I'm going to put away this amount. I'm going to pay that debt off, especially if it has a schedule to it, so that you say, I know that's going to be paid off in 3 years or whatever that schedule may be. And I'm going to put away this amount of money to save. There's easy ways to compare which one is better because you can just compare interest rates and say, oh, I borrowed at 3% and my investments are growing at 10. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. Right. But that's a mathematical question.
Yeah.
I find that finance is a lot more emotional than that too. And so there is a peace of mind that people have. To financial advisors, they often ask, should I pay off my home or should I keep my retirement money available or pay it off or save is kind of the question. And I can answer that financially very easily.
Yeah.
The difference is, how do you feel about it? Some people feel if their home is paid for, life is better. They may not have a lot of money in the bank.
Yeah.
But so be it. That's how they want to live. And so I say with a financial advisor, there's a good conversation in there.
Yeah.
And I think what usually also trumps that is, how does that individual feel about debt? My financial opinion is, don't wait until all your debt is paid off to save. You've got to start saving something today.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Love that.